Ex- exclamation point! Vote grow beard. That's right. I didn't mention that I shaved it. Yeah, yeah. Oh wow, we saw people left. No, I'm joking. With that, we are also going to cover down on the attack framework after the news for a second, and then follow that into one of the cyber tools that both attackers and defenders will enjoy. All right. So post these links up in the chat real quick. There we go. Cyber attack shuts down online learning at 15 UK schools. Big issue during the pandemic. 15 schools in the United Kingdom have been unable to provide online learning due to a cyber attack. The schools based in Nottinghamshire belong to the Nova Education Trust Cooperative. On Wednesday, several of the schools reported issues across social media and the need to close down the IT systems due to the active attack. The threat actor was able to access the Trust's central network infrastructure, and while an investigation took place, all existing phone, email, and website communication had to be pulled. The 15 schools impacted by the central cybersecurity incident were not able to provide typical remote learning, and teachers have been unable to upload learning materials. However, some of the schools have pivoted to SMS messages, temporary phone numbers, and Microsoft Teams to try and keep lesson disruption to a minimum. Story's very short. 15 schools are down for the area. With this one, I just wanted to touch on something that is. There's two takeaways here from an incident response perspective. One is the remediation, okay, containment and remediation. Now, in an attack scenario where there's a compromise that has occurred, there are times where it's not good to contain until you're ready. What I mean by that, if there is a widespread compromise that seems to be the case here, what you want to do is you want to monitor and identify how many user accounts are compromised, as in how many credentials are being used, where the attack is actually at, or where they're regularly coming in from, and then you want to contain. What I'm saying is you want to know the scope of the situation before you contain, so that way you can ensure that you cut off all routes of access and clear everything out very quickly. With that, relatively speaking, unless there's a purpose, which there might be a purpose, there might have been a privacy issue, they might have had access, but if they had access to school resources that involved a privacy issue, my point being is that taking the entire school system offline seems that it could have been prevented if done in the correct manner. Furthermore, if you have the correct monitoring set up, it should not take you days and weeks unless you're suffering a ransomware attack and can't actually get into the systems itself. It's unfortunate. One thing I would also, now this is in the UK, so I'm not sure how they are set up, or what is likely for the co-op to have as far as the security posture goes. However, what I do want to also mention is that if you cannot afford a SOC or a managed service provider to provide active incident response to your users, that's fine in some instances where if you're not working with money, if you're not working with finance, in this case, a children's school cooperative, okay. You should, though, as part of your risk mitigation plan, definitely have some form of security response team on a retainer. Service level agreement, you pay a certain amount up front and basically per year, and it retains them for a certain number of consults, a certain number of reaction, And if the worst case happens and you do get compromised, they already know enough about your network that they can respond within force and clean the issue up quickly and remediate. And it's a cheaper method of instant response if you can't run a full SOC or you don't have the resources or the team or the management or etc. It's another method. So that's a thought. Okay. Moving forward. Okay. Qualys confirms unauthorized access to data via Accellion hack. And this. Schools in the UK aren't well funded when it comes to this sort of thing. Understand. Chaos Monkey, understand. There are methods around. What I'm saying is, I understand that if even if there not resources that are available for you for school, and I understand this is not a big bank or a company or something like that should know better, but it doesn't mean that we need to leave the computers of the children out in the cold either. There should definitely be a country level program that you can opt into that should be stood up. That would be a very easy solution to this. Or, what do you call it? As I said, a retainer program where this could be fixed very quickly. Either or. So moving forward, Qualys confirms unauthorized access to data via Accellion hack. I just threw the links up in the chat. I think I hit a nerve. I work with education. There's very little funding or security. Also, districts are usually more reactive than proactive. Absolutely, 100% agree. Definitely not blaming the technicians in that at all. Not at all. I understand that there's zero funding for it. Actually, both my parents were teachers growing up. I fully understand how little funding there is. But what I'm saying is that there are other ways that this could have been managed better. Of course, also shame to the attackers attacking a school. That's a little below the belt there. But again, just better ways is all I was getting at. Better ways to have managed it. I'm definitely not talking about the IT staff. I know generally like an entire region of 20, 30 schools will probably have maybe 1 to 3 IT staff members. I know it's very slim pickings. I understand. So, okay, Qualys. Back to Qualys. Sorry, guys. Hours. Okay, Qualys confirms unauthorized access to data via Accellion hack. I've been answering you guys in chat. Let me throw that one more time, the links in there, and move forward. Move forward. Hours after the Clop ransomware gang published data allegedly stolen from the information security and compliance solutions provider Qualys, the company has confirmed being impacted by the recent cyber attack involving Acellion's FTA product, as in file transfer. Qualys, the California-based firm, serves more than 10,000 customers in over 130 countries around the world, including many of the Forbes Global 100 companies. If you're unfamiliar with Qualys, their primary product is vulnerability scanning and management, and it works via cloud as well, which is a huge benefit. You don't have to be connected to an internal backbone to see what's going on. Data allegedly stolen from the company includes scan results, financial documents, was published on clop_leaks Tor website this week. Initially, the website would list data exfiltrated during ransomware attacks. But as of late, it's been flooded with data stolen from various organizations that were relying on the Accellion FTA file transfer software. The data was compromised during a December 2020 cyber attack. That was confirmed earlier this year. A total of 4 0-day vulnerabilities were identified in the attack, all of which have already been patched. FireEye's Mandiant researchers have linked the attacks to the Fin11 or Fin11 cybercrime group, a Tango Alpha 505 spinoff or a TA 505 spinoff. Company also said the attackers likely reverse engineered the file transfer software, which provided them with a high level of sophistication and deep familiarity with the inner workings of the FTA software. We immediately notified the limited number of customers impacted by this unauthorized access, Qualys says, without providing additional information on the compromised data or the number of affected customers. All right. Oh, no worries, Cyberwolf. No worries. Not at all. It just I normally don't get such reactions in chat at all with the news articles. So no worries at all, guys. I realized midway through talking about the news about the school district and just saying, oh, they could have done better, that I might have been stepping on some sore points, because I do understand what it's like as a child of two teachers. I have been there on the teacher days. I know the lack of support that happens in it from an educator's perspective. So I want to make it really clear what I was talking about. I was definitely talking about higher administration, even the country itself. You know, UK. If there's a security issue that involves children's laptops, United Kingdom should be providing a SOC and just send the endpoint EDR solutions in AV to all for free as an opt-in. There you go. There's multiple different ways this could have been handled, way outside of the district itself. So just the 2 cents. Again, though, there could be more to this that involves privacy, GDPR, and the other aspects as well. I'm not a UK citizen. I don't know all. I don't understand all the facets behind this attack, but it just seems like this is lost operational time for students in a time when it's already difficult for students, and it seems needless and could have been better prevented. But yeah, that was me not thinking about the multiple different ways this could have been looked at, and I wanted to cover and talk about it real quick. So thank you again. You're awesome. Thank you guys for being here. For the Qualys story, third-party compromises strikes again. Acelion, and it strikes again in a very familiar way, right? Like, this looks exactly like the Solar Winds, where Solar Winds caused an attack on FireEye originally is where it started. That's how we found out. Now we have Qualys. That was attacked because they trusted another service provider. So even the service providers can no longer trust the service providers. It's just becoming dog eat dog. I'm tired of hearing impact was limited. I get that it's a PR, but it's getting so repetitive now. Impact was limited. Impact was limited to a number of customers. You know, if you are responsible for 130 countries, many of which are Fortune 100 companies, Fortune 1000 companies, and then you're also in 10,000 customers, some of which might be government agencies, like, I feel like we keep seeing impact was limited over and over again, and they are dipping and dodging and diving out of the PR spotlight, and there's not a standardization as to what needs to be actually said in these breach reports. Now, speaking of third-party breaching, we saw this in the Target hack. If you guys don't remember the Target hack, it was large in a couple different ways, but the biggest one was it was a large company that was compromised because of a third-party provider. It's a point-of-sale system that was compromised. Actual financial transactions occurred where money was lost, and we saw both the CEO and the CIO or CISO, I believe it was CIO, both left the company within a year. Okay. And it had a huge splash. It wasn't just acceptable to go, oops, my bad, no big deal. I remember that it had a very large splash, and we're starting to see something similar where High-end security providers are actively being targeted via third-party pathways, and uh, these third-party warnings. Be wary of your third-party programs. This warning bell has been going off for years now. 4 years, the warning bell has been going. You're talking about a program that had 4 0 days in it. There's a whole nother conversation we can have about the susceptibility of 0 days and should there be regulation around it. If Toyota, Ford, Chrysler, or Chevy, um, if they manufactured vehicles with faulty equipment because of the QA process, they're still held liable. You know, that's a whole conversation for another day and for much bigger minds than mine, to be honest. But it's something to be considerate about, and also to take back to your own company and to implement in the manner of how are we verifying any of our third party tie ins? Anybody that touches our data. What is our data portability when we talk about other businesses? Do we have a good QA review that occurs with the people that use our data? Are they storing it in a good way? These are the types of GRC jobs, risk management jobs that we've talked about before as well, that can go a long way. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. This is the ounce of prevention. Risk management, asking the questions, reviewing the technology, ensuring it meets a basic standard level that is acceptable for the time. Okay, so moving forward to the big one. Big one. I intentionally chose a couple shorts to hit the big guy this week. All right. Thank you, Claw Overdrop. Yes. Those are my elbows. All right. Microsoft Exchange 0-day attackers spy on U.S. targets. Full dumps of email boxes, lateral movements, and backdoors characterize sophisticated attackers by a Chinese advanced persistent threat group, while more incidents spread like wildfire. Microsoft has spotted multiple 0-day exploits in the wild being used to attack on-premises versions of Microsoft Exchange Server. Adversaries have been able to access email accounts, steal a raft of data, and drop malware on target machines for long-term remote access, according to the computer giant. The attacks are limited and targeted, according to Microsoft, spurring it to release out-of-band patches this week. However, third-party companies are reporting widespread attacks. The team is seeing organizations of all shapes and sizes affected, including electricity companies, local, county governments, healthcare providers, and banks, financial institutions, as well as small hotels, multiple senior citizen communities, and other mid-market businesses, a spokesperson at Huntress told ThreatPost. The culprit is believed to be an advanced persistent threat group known as hafnium, also the name of a chemical element. I may have butchered that. Which has a history of targeting assets in the United States with cyber espionage campaigns. The fact that Microsoft chose to patch these flaws out of band rather than include them as part of next week's Patch Tuesday release leads us to believe the flaws are quite severe, even if we don't know the full scope of these attacks. Saturn Naring staff research engineer at Tenable said via email. Microsoft patched following bugs this week, and admins should update accordingly. Now, I'm not going to go into every single nook and cranny of these bugs, but I did want to mention they're kind of cool the way that they are able to operate. So, because I'm not going to PowerPoint you to death here. But the first is 2021-26855, and it's a server-side request forgery (SSRF) vulnerability that allows authentication bypass. A remote attacker can simply send arbitrary HTTP request to the Exchange server and be able to authenticate to it. From there, an attacker can steal the full contents of multiple user mailboxes. That is insane. 2021 26857 is an insecure deserialization vulnerability in the unified messaging service, where untrusted user controllable data is deserialized by a program. An exploit allows remote attackers with administrative permissions to run code as system on the Exchange server. So with simple HTTP request, you're able to authenticate to the server. You're able to run code as system once you gain access. Or no, remote. Remote attackers are with administrative permissions to run code as system on the Exchange server. Wow. So 26858 and 27065 are both post-authentication arbitrary file write vulnerabilities in Exchange. Once authenticated with an Exchange server, which we just discussed, an attacker could write a file to any path on the server, thus achieving remote code execution, as well as a callback, as well as a beacon, as well as persistence. Shall we say more? Remote code execution, add a user. Boom. Now, what happened in the Hafnium attacks? In the previously observed campaigns, the 4 zero-day bugs were used to gain initial access to targeted Exchange servers and achieve remote code exploitation. The operators then deployed web shells on the compromised servers, which were used to steal data and expand the attack, according to the researchers. In all cases of RCE, Volexity has observed the attacker writing web shells, ASPX files to disk, and conducting further operations to dump credentials, add user accounts, steal copies of the Active Directory database, ntds.dit, and move laterally to other systems and environments, according to the write-up. That is insane. Also, apologize for my pup. Got a big puppy downstairs. Didn't like the neighbor coming home. Continuing forward, following web shell deployment, Microsoft found that the Hafnium operators performed a range of post-exploitation activity, using procdump to dump the LSAS process memory, using 7-zip to compress stolen data into zip files for exfiltration, adding and using Exchange PowerShell snap-ins to export mailbox data, using the Nisheng invoke PowerShell TCP one-line reverse shell. That one has such a signature to it. I don't know why they would use that. An EDR product would pick that one up pretty well. And downloading PowerCat from GitHub, then using it to open a connection to a remote server. I'm so disappointed in the tradecraft here. The attackers were also able to download the Exchange Online address book from compromised systems, which contains information about an organization and its users, according to the analysis. All right. The good news for defenders is that the post-exploitation activity is very detectable, said Katie Nichols, as you literally heard me saying in the midst of reading them off to you. Extremely detectable, highly well known, a lot of signatures for, I would say, about 80% of the activity just described, many by name. The group operates primarily from leased virtual private servers in the U.S. and primarily goes after U.S. targets, but it has been linked previously to the Chinese government, according to Microsoft. It characterizes the APT as a highly skilled and sophisticated actor. We expect other threat actors to begin leveraging these vulnerabilities in the coming days and weeks, which is why it is critically important for organizations that use Exchange Server to apply these patches immediately, he added. And indeed, the researchers at Huntress said they have discovered more than 100 web shells deployed across roughly 1,500 vulnerable servers with AV and EDR installed, and expect this number to keep rising. And they aren't the only ones. Now, more 0 days. Yay! 0 days keep us in business if you're on the blue team. I'm not saying go and start them, but I'm just saying. They're also interesting. However, these are impressive. Now, problem with 0 days is without alerts, you have to rely on threat hunting to be able to find the activity. In order to be able to threat hunt, you have to have a very good baseline. In order to have a good baseline, you have to be very controlled in what your systems are able to talk to. When you're talking about an exchange server, you should be able to see back and forth, but when you're talking about a large enough organization, you can have, 10 different exchange admins on there, some that don't even work in the same zip code, some that don't work in the same part of the world. It can get very hectic very easily. It can get lost. There are multiple different ways that this can be protected against. I'm guessing that one, I mean, I don't know why the exchange server is responding to HTTP request. That's just off the bat. The rest, I don't know enough about the vulnerabilities to comment on. I know that hopefully that your exchange resides behind a firewall that's blocking most traffic, or at least you know what I mean, appropriate traffic, I should say. Post compromise, some of the behavior. Proc dump is loud. Proc dump is noisy. There's a lot of different EDR vendors that will catch proc dump. I see you, Rob Federowitz. I hope I said that correctly. We'll talk about that here in just a second at the AMA. I like that question. Yeah. However, so let's go down the list. All right. Let me go down the list real quick. So, proc dump to dump the LSAS process memory. Proc dump is noisy, and what I mean noisy is that it's very well known. The signatures are well known. Behoove you to block. The people that should be really process dump, that should be used only by admins that you know, admins that you trust, admins that you're able to talk to. If you don't, verify. If you can't, verify. 7-zip, that one's pretty common. Okay. Exchange PowerShell snap-ins to export mailbox data. Again, that sounds like an admin task. You have to verify your admins. Nishank, you should not be using that on a internal network. PowerCat. I recognize the name, but I can't remember that off the top of my head. I believe that's part of the, definitely part of the, what that will alert. Oh no, I will have to look that up for you guys. PowerCat, I missed that one. Anyway, so there's a lot of this that would trip and would notify. Now, that said, just because an alert's generated doesn't necessarily mean that they were appropriately investigated, or that they were investigated and then that the activity just wasn't corrected and fixed and reversed, flip it, turn around, reverse it, and get away with it. Also, sometimes when you are deploying agents and agent processes, some administrators prefer to keep them off of operational things like domain controllers and exchanges, because they're afraid that they might, an error in that might cause an issue and an outage. There are multiple reasons. But the post-exploitation activity is very detectable. I 100% agree with that. The exploitation activity would be very difficult to catch. Okay. And why? Let's talk about why. All right? And move. I'm going to throw this. This is a question that I received last week that I liked so much, I held on to it so we could talk about it this week. Okay? Received that question last week. I'm not sure if you're here. Nope, I don't see you this week. Hopefully you'll catch this. All right, let me adjust 1 second. Move here. I'm going to move you beautiful people around a little bit. Tight. Okay. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So, why are some of these items that we would call noteworthy? Oh, also going to adjust to here. There we go. Why are some of these items that we're talking about, why are they low fidelity versus high fidelity? Why are some really easy to catch and, it's confusing as to they're easily detectable post-exploitation versus pre-exploitation? There we go. The reason is, the reason is because of what we know as far as behavior goes. Now, this is the attack matrix by MITRE. If you're unfamiliar with the attack matrix, well, congratulations. Here you go. Uh-oh. Do I have a freezing? Okay, one sec. Webcam. And we're back. There we go. Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay. So, the attack framework. MITRE attack framework. What is this? This is a grouping of TTPs, or tactics, techniques, and procedures of what can occur for the kill chain. What is the kill chain? The kill chain is, it was created by Lockheed Martin, and it describes the attack method for threat actors. I'm hesitating because there is also another kill chain that MITRE actually created to better map out the attack framework. However, that's a little more advanced. So we'll just go with the basic kill chain. Now, with that, the attack framework groups together things like reconnaissance, for example. Now, reconnaissance, active scanning is my camera again. One of these days, we'll just. It's me. It's my camera. My camera's being fun. Okay, so things like active scanning, gathering victim data, fishing for information, dumpster diving. All these are methods of reconnaissance on an actual target. All right. You can also do things like initial access, drive-by compromise, facing public, external remote services. I should probably throw this up in the chat. All right, I see you guys. Better? All right. So you have things like active scanning, gathering victim host information. I just did the try to hack me room for MITRE. Good. Excellent. So, fishing for information. This is the technique. Sub-techniques. Spear phishing service. Spear phishing attachment. Spear phishing link. That means the link in an email, an attachment, or an actual service provider. Mitigations, user training, detection, methods of detection. How do we detect this? Now, you can take the methods of detection. A lot of times they are built into EDR platforms, security platforms already. In fact, a lot of this software, this talks about the, oh, I'm sorry, this is the wrong software category. In their resources, as well as updates and blogs and everything else like that, MITRE Attack has actually started rating EDR solutions and XDR, but EDR solutions based on how many items that they can find. Okay, I'll give you another example. Persistence, bitch jobs. If you're unfamiliar with bitch jobs is similar to the scheduled tags, but it works in the background. It's a background intelligence transfer service. It can be scheduled via It's either command prompt or PowerShell. You can use it, yeah, PowerShell and the Bits admin tool, which is command prompt. So you can literally have somebody click a link. You can have somebody click a link, and then they download a payload, and that payload executes a script, and then a bits job is executed. That bits job will run in the background, and that's how you create persistence to call back to your command and control. So, if you are a blue team member, learning this, starting to understand, and as you progress and mature in your instant response mechanisms, being able to start using these attacks, so creator modified systems, they come with ID tags. You can map these ID tags to your investigations and thereby determine, I looked at my entire year worth of tickets and I've taken a look at them statistically, and we have a real problem with initial access and trusted relationships. It seems like almost all of my tickets involve trusted relationships. Come the next year, when you start talking budget, that's where you need to put your money. With that, if you get attacked a lot, unfortunately, you can start taking these and you can apply them to the diamond model, which is something that we'll talk about much later on. But that's how you start mapping threat campaigns. And then with this, another method that you can use is, so from this site, you can go to, let's see if I can actually see it in this. I don't think I can see it in this view. No, I'm just going to keep it big. I'll switch over. On here, you can go to what's called the Attack Navigator. That's an option whenever you go to the actual website itself. Okay. Now, the Attack Navigator, create a new layer, and we're going to go Enterprise. Oh, should also break it down. They offer Enterprise, Mobile, or ICS, as in SCADA control systems, industrial control systems, etc. Mobile devices, Enterprise. You have more options. I'm not sure about the Navigator, but they also offer cloud options. And you can select by cloud provider. AWS, what AWS attacks are possible. In fact, let's look. Matrices, cloud, AWS. This is the all the attacks that are known about for AWS that have been reported on recently. That's it. Not much at all. Thank you for coming, Cyber Columbiana. I see you. All right. With this, I'm going to click Enterprise. It'll give a really thin-looking map. Let me see if I can zoom in. Okay, now here's the cool part, guys. Here's what the tool I want to show you real fast. With the Attack Navigator, and you're working in your companies, and you want to see what does my landscape look like? What does my attack landscape look like? What does my defensive posture look like, given the security controls that we currently have? You can click on each of these, and you can start assigning background colors. I'm green on this because it is blocked by, let's say, I have carbon black. Exploitation for client execution alerts or is blocked by carbon black. Here, it just alerts, so I'm going to give it a yellow. Furthermore, you can actually... there is a scoring option. You can assign scores to these. 100 is the best. I don't allow any scheduled tasks or jobs, or I allow only admins can set them, so I'm going to set that at 75. Compromise client software binaries. Unfortunately, that's something that happens every single day, and I have no control over it. That's a 10. And as you keep going, what you'll see is that this entire map becomes this beautiful heat map of everywhere that you have access to, and you can overlay things. You can create a back-end risk matrix scoring. So you could do one of these for each one of your third-party vendors, or this tool is just openly available, automatically updated with the newest information from a nonprofit group and organization. And as you see, some of these as I highlight them, are going all the way across. It's because scheduled task is a form of execution. A scheduled task is a form of persistence. Privilege escalation is a form of, I'm sorry, a scheduled task is also a form of privilege escalation because you can spawn processes up. And when you spawn scheduled task up, they operate as systems. So as a user, if you're capable of making a scheduled task or a job, for example, the bits jobs, they will operate as system and you thereby have privilege escalation. Wow, that was hard to say. Time to drink a little. All right, moving forward, where can you get training on this to learn more about it? It's open source. It's very well widely talked about. They have not only the, if you go to their site and go under the training, they have free training here, as well as ATT&CK, all the presentations on the different methods of using them as they were sponsored. Yeah, I just wanted to introduce you to a really good tool for the enterprise. And lastly, because I know so many of you are going through Hack the Box, CTF, and everything else, and I had some questions on this. Cyber Chef, welcome to the Swiss Army knife. Can be used by both attackers and defenders. What is this capable of? Well, let's delete everything here. You have your recipe pane that's right in the center. I will blow this up because I know. Okay. Make sure. There we go. All right. You have a recipe pane that's right here in the center. You have input and you have output. As of right now, this input is the exact same as the output. Now, I would like to switch this to base 64. Boom. That is base 64. Why would I switch that to base 64? If you are an attacker, you can use one-line PowerShell scripts to execute an initial compromise very quickly. Call out to a C2 domain, establish connection, and then download secondary payloads to create the shell for you. So when somebody opens up the back door of, let's say, Microsoft Office document and the scripts in the back, the VBS scripts with the macros, you can use PowerShell in there. And this would give you a call out. Now, here's the problem. Invoke web request out to malicious domain or whatever PowerShell module you use. That might cause some flags. Also, might cause some flags when you're talking about the in the plain text. It might look weird if it hits the alert. So you can use base 64. And base 64 to encode and help you obfuscate to bypass security controls as well as reviews. What are other things that you can do with this? Well, from hex to hex. Get rid of this. What? Not from hex. My bad. To hex. There we go. That's the hex output. Now, why would you need to know the hex output? That's PCAP, guys. That's what the PCAP data looks like. That's what's broken down whenever you collect data streams via Wireshark or you sniff the air for something or you're sitting on a network security monitor. That's what the stream looks like and is passed through the ballpark the chords. The translation, anyway. That's what you'll gather. So if you were to gather a raw PCAP stream, you'll be able to throw it into the input. And go from hex, and then out comes your hello world. Some other nice and fancy tools on here. URL decode. I personally love this one because a lot of times people try and utilize URL and hide data within the URL string itself because of the different symbols. I'm not going to pull up a particular decode chart right now, but this is a rapid method because I do want to get to our AMA. Regular expressions. You can actually insert regular expressions in here. If you're not familiar with regular expressions, by the way, you can go to regex101.com. I'm hoping, yes. And you can learn regular expressions through here which will help you for both analytics and also coding and so many other different things. Just another tool. And then they have so much other information here. Each one of these tiny little sections is just another tool. Hashing, any type of hashing algorithm, compression, code tidy, do forensics, detect file types, scan for embedded files, extract files. You can run YARA rules through this. We can keep going on and on and on, but now you know about it. And let me go back down to the very basic. Throw this up in chat for you guys. Okay. It's one that I use on a definite daily basis. All right. Now, as for the poll, I am going to take a look at the poll real quick and answer some questions. All right, guys, you have voted. It's been running for approximately an hour. Looks like Bourbon on the Rocks it is next week. Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and close out that poll. All right. Switch up my views one more time. One more time. Anyway. Okay. If you do get hit by malware, is there any way to get into a system without paying for it, like a backdoor option? I'm not sure what that one means. Can you clarify, Fraser? If that one's from you. Sorry, refilling my glass real fast. Okay. If you have an OnlyFans but still have a Bachelor's of Science cybersecurity degree, are cybersecurity jobs out of the question? Just depends on your employer. I am 100% sure that there are pornography sites out there that require cybersecurity assistance and probably wouldn't care. Security permeates every type of workplace, so you find the workplace. I don't think you'll be doing security for the Catholic Church anytime soon, probably, but who cares? To each your own. There's plenty of work to be had. Thank you, Claw Overdraw, for the gifted sub. Received Ken Caniff. Not all right. Received a job offer as a cybersecurity engineer at a very large government consulting firm. First security job out of college. Question: is government consulting firm a good place to go out of college? Anywhere you can get your foot in the door is a good place to go out of college. Honestly, get your foot in the door, start the work. I would make sure that the benefits meet what you need in life, and that the pay is reasonable for the region that you live in to be able to live and pay on your student loans while, living comfortably. Not comfortably. I'm not talking about big armchairs and a full house, but you know what I mean. Get your foot in the door. Getting your foot in the door is probably the most difficult part of working in cybersecurity, as a lot of people can probably attest in our Discord. That's the most difficult part. So if you can do that, start there, and then following that, government, there's really not the downside of government. There's downsides to working for government, right? But there's more pros than there are cons, especially for your first job. You generally don't start seeing the downsides to government till you get to be more senior, where the career progression becomes all of a sudden a very tiny pyramid, and you have to deal with a lot more responsibilities on top of cybersecurity stuff. Okay, continuing forward. All right, I'm ignoring the chat right now. How are they detectable? Okay. And a comment. NetSec. The folks over at Black Hills mused that the public tools from GitHub might have been an attempt to avoid using stuff they developed. I 100% believe that. I definitely believe that. I think that one, Black Hills is an amazing group. Two, um, yeah, the public tools from GitHub might. When you go onto a foreign box, you run the risk of losing your tool sets immediately off the bat. Um, and if they wanted to live off the land, the thing that I don't believe in though is that if they wanted to, they could have lived off the land in an easier fashion. Um, no, not easier. I don't know how to say that. There could have been a little bit more tradecraft without downloading such well-known tools. That's all I was saying. How are they detectable? Oh, the question was about them being detected if it was from IPS or IDS systems. Um, Actually, in all the reporting that I read, I didn't read how they were initially detected as far as the compromise went. I will look into that and let you know in the Discord, Black Knight, if I see anything. All right. It almost feels debilitating. Microsoft, who has almost unlimited funds for cyber, and they are tied to SolarWinds and these Exchange 0 days. How do they miss things like this? Well, one, you're asking the wrong. I am not a Microsoft fanboy. I am definitely going to throw them under the bus here. Um, but it's likely that they're just a very large company. Two, SolarWinds was so impactful because it affected so many people. I mean, it affected FireEye, that is a security company, and it wasn't because out of laziness. It definitely wasn't. Um, but that's a different conversation. Um, as far as 0 days go, it goes back to coding standards. It goes back to acceptable standards, testing standards. These four back to back feel like that it feels like they should have been caught off the bat, and things are not looking good for them, especially with under the watchful eye currently of both. The U.S. government is looking hard at these large tech companies and wondering if they should start holding them more accountable for their behaviors and things that they are doing. This does not help to that discussion. Is that is this is a tool that you use on um, THM in a room? Oh, okay. Try hack me in a room. I'm not sure if Try Hack Me goes over Cyber Chef, if that's the one you're talking about. It is just a tool. It is a conversion tool. You can do a lot of what I was just showing you. You can do via Bash or um, PowerShell as well. You can run scripts. You can do commandlets additions. There are tools that you can keep on your desktop to run these. I like this particular one because it's GUI based. I can get to it from almost anywhere that allows GitHub. Um, and it works. It works so well in real time. It's just copy, paste, and go. It's just a tool. You might not need it for try. In fact, I imagine you probably won't need it for try hack me or hack the box. But you guys are studying hacking skills, and this is a method of this is a Swiss Army knife that you can use to hide yourself, hide your code, improve your code. There's beautify options for some types of code in there, like Java and stuff like that. This is a tool for if you were going down to a code level, and it's an impressive one. Does it cause does it cause the flag because it's from Word, not an app like Chrome? Um, does it cause the flag because it's from Word and not an app like Chrome? Are you talking about? Are you talking about macros that we were talking about, Black Knight? Uh, on the advent test, okay. Not sure what you're talking about with the. Okay, I'm not sure there on Black. I'll talk to you in person on that one. Con Bomb Badil, I see you. CYSA Plus and Pentest Plus. Are they worth anything in the real world? I wouldn't recommend Pentest Plus. I haven't actually even met anybody that's actually has that one. EJPT, OSCP are definitely probably better bet there. CYSA Plus, I have looked at that and it seems good for blue team operations. However, I would combine it with something else. With the school attack, what do you think the attackers were trying to achieve? I don't know, and that's what bothers me. I don't know. It's kids. There's not money there. I don't know, and that's what bothers me. And I think that's one of the reasons why security is lacking in the school systems, because why are they a target other than to say you can to, protest something, but this deep and this long that they're offline, if it's not ransomware related, that bothers me. Why are they this deep and this silent where it's not ransomware? You know. Does CyberChef help you with inputting a program to condense it down to a one-liner? It can. It can also, you can take, so what you can do is you can take an entire script, put it into the input, condense it down to base 64, and then do a one-liner to convert and execute from base 64 command. You can do a little PowerShell research on that one, and it ends up being, the front header is so small on the actual code itself, and then it's just this massive one-line chunk of base 64, and then, the tail end. And it's a nice, clean one line. When you actually break out the base 64, it ends up being, a 60-line script. So, there's multiple different methods for that Tron daemon.
Hey, thanks for watching. I want to thank Neil on the Cyber Insecurity channel for providing a place to have real conversations with real people. Feel free to throw a like or to follow me on the socials in the description. Please remember to click subscribe, hit that notification bell, and if you want to see other videos, click that stuff that's all over the screen. See you next time.